about to go live. I see Tom. Uh, Sometimes when we do bikes and hikes, we like to do those uh, where we'll jump and then be in a different location. And we do it just to be goofy. And sometimes we'll jump at an odd time so it even looks odd, and then we'll be in a different location. And at first we would want it to be real pure. We'd clap our hands or go poof, and we'd show up somewhere else. But we actually think it's funnier if it's odd looking, and that's so maybe me and you looked funny and odd this morning.
Well, that's the
How you doing?
those are colloquially referred to as transitions. Actually, not colloquially. That is the industry term. That's like those are transitions.
Okay, transition other than like a fade to black or a slide off with the screen or the V cut. Did you tell us a V cut one day? Was that what you said?
Yeah, there's V
Suggested?
cuts, there's L cuts, there's all kinds of cuts. But different editing terms. I mean, there's a whole world of jargon in the production world. But yeah, I mean, those are all transitions, right? Like a simple fade is a transition, a wipe is a transition, a dissolve is a transition. They're all the jump and like the cut on the jump timed with the jump, that's a transition. They're all transitions, but you can have a lot of fun with transitions. I think the place where people get carried away is like transitions can be a lot of fun, but sometimes people get a little shiny object syndrome with them, right? And they're like, ooh, this is really fun and cool. And then all of a sudden you've just got like all these extra transitions you don't need, that don't serve a purpose, and they're just there because they're shiny and fun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a place where you got to exercise a little judgment and caution when it comes to playing with that kind of stuff. Like, it should always be intentional. It should always serve a purpose, right? Like, if it's getting you from A to B and it's like sort of part of the look of the video that you're working on, or the helps set a tone, great. But if it's just there because it's fun, that's not a good enough reason, right? And I
Yeah.
come across that all the time. I have clients who are like, I want to do that because it's really fun. I really like when people do that. And I'm like, okay, cool, but what is it? What purpose is it serving? Has to always serve a purpose. It has to be intentional, right?
I remember when I first started, and I don't use Adobe Premiere at all, but I first started trying to make like move videos from the software I was using to Adobe Premiere. And there was like a million transitions in it. I got to like the little cat on the corner, and really just there was like a million. And I thought they can go from this to this to this. So I will tell you, I watch the morning news sometimes. I watch the morning news every day, but I watch the transitions out of from it seems, tell me if this is true. Sorry. We're going to talk about things we can be better at today. Anything that you want to be better at, that you could be better at, that you should be good about. That I got thinking about that because it's my son's 18th birthday today. So besides for the million things as a parent I should be better at, now we're almost a month into the year. We got 300 and some days to go, things we should be better at. But I watch the morning news, Tom, and am I correct or not? Why sometimes when they add like I'll be watching uh CBS morning show with Gail and Tony and Nate, and all of a sudden they cut to the local weather, like my local weather. And the local weather, when they cut out of it or cut into it, they're always editing, like it seems like a clip is always missing. And why does that happen? Who's messing up?
What do you mean? Describe to me what you mean when you say it feels like a clip is missing. Explain
It
it to me.
feels like the morning news. Now, when they go from the CBS, like that morning show I'm watching, when they go back to like my local weather, it always seems like when they cut out of my local weather back to the morning show or into the weather, that somebody's words are getting cut off too early or too soon. And it's odd either way. Like it seems like somebody's messing with their transitions one way or another when in like maybe that transition should have been on the other clip, but they're putting it on the last clip. I don't know. Seems weird to me.
Well, so I mean, what you're describing sounds to me like a timing issue. Like basically they're doing a station throw, right? So, but it's all live, right? So none of that is pre-recorded or pre-edited. So really they're not editing so much as they're switching, and they're using those graphics that you see when they cut those transitions. Those are what you would call bumpers, right? So basically what it is it's a little graphic that buys you a second and a half, 2 seconds of like sort of leeway to try to cut from one feed, to transition from one feed to the other, to switch without showing dead space in between, right? So you've got a little area, like if you think about like, there's say like, and I'm using my hands to demonstrate this, guys, but I'm like holding my hands up sort of like with my fingertips pointing at each other, just so everybody listening can understand what I'm saying. So imagine that like if your fingertips are touching, right? Then like your hands are flat, fingertips are touching, palms down, right? That's how I'm holding my hands. Imagine that one of your hands is the feed of the CBS morning show in New York, right? And the other hand is the feed of the local news, right? And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to have your fingertips overlapping, right? And you don't want to have them too far apart, right? But you can't really be super, super precise down to the frame when you're going live, right? You need a little bit of wiggle room to kind of slide. So what they do is they use that graphical bumper so that if there's a little bit of slippage, if the fingertips are slightly apart, they're not quite touching, so they're not exactly lined up perfectly, or if they're overlapped a tiny bit, it gives you a moment to sort of cut from one to the other, to transition from one to the other without the audience seeing that, right? So sometimes it feels like the words are being cut off or overlapped a little bit. And that's really because you have two different live shows going at the same time, and you're transitioning from one feed to the other. And those feeds, because it's human beings on both ends, are never going to really line up exactly perfectly down to the fraction of a second, right? You can be accurate down to the second, but not to the fraction of a second, right? So they're all running off the same clock. So they're all accurate down to the second, but not really the fraction of a second. It's too precise. And so you use that graphical bumper to try to hide that switch from one feed to the other, so that you don't have a gap of dead air, which is like in broadcast, that is like the cardinal sin, is dead air, right? So you don't have that gap of dead air, or you don't see an awkward overlap. Maybe you hear a little bit of something, but you don't see that awkward overlap where like somebody's in mid-sentence when it cuts to them. So they'll try to kind of trim a little bit just to neaten up those transitions a little bit, cutting from one feed to the other. But that's really what they're using. They're using those graphical bumpers to kind of cover that hole or that gap that likely exists between one feed and the other feed, if that makes sense. I tried to describe that like sort of as
that was pretty good. Thank you,
clearly
Tom.
as I could.
I do enjoy when you get geeky sometimes, and I watch the morning show, and every day it just drives me nuts when I see that, because I'm wondering how don't they fix it? But your explanation, well, that is the fix, right? Because so many things are going on that it could be a hell of a lot worse. So, well, thank you.
Yeah, it would be much more awkward, I think, if they just left in the sort of because inevitably there's a little dead air in there, right? That's usually what you're going for, is you don't want overlap, you want a little gap in between. And so those two feeds and the timing. And so basically what they're doing is they're covering up that dead air. So like you'll notice too that there's also a musical sting under those graphics, and that's what you call that little short piece of music. That few notes, that like maybe one or two bars of music that's underneath that graphic that goes along with it. And a lot of times it's not even so much music as it's like maybe a couple of tones and like a sound effect, like a whooshing sound effect or two. Maybe a clap, maybe a hit, some different sound effects in there. But basically there's an audio component to those and a video component, a visual component. And that's to help hide that gap so you don't have that dead air, and make that transition a little bit more seamless. It's never going to be perfect, but they try to make it as seamless as possible, to not frustrate Dom in Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get on this. Not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking things we could be better at. That was transitions. We're talking Adobe Premiere. So we'll get to John and Mary and Julie, and then we're going to come back to you, Tom.
But just one clarification: they're definitely not using Adobe Premiere for the local news. So just to be clear,
I was saying me. Yeah, I got you.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear. I'm not saying they're using Adobe Premiere. They're definitely not using Adobe Premiere for they may be using it to edit together packages, right? So when you see that story where they go to like a local business and they talk about the local business and they interview somebody there, that's a package they would have shot like the day before, and they'll edit those together, sometimes at Adobe Premiere, sometimes in another system called Avid. But yeah, just to be clear, they're not using Adobe Premiere for any of that live stuff. They may use After Effects to actually build those graphic packages, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay, good. Got it. All right. Now we're moving on. John, Tom gave us some geeked out for a little bit. Something you could be better at in 24 that you want to be better at, or whatever you're working on. And maybe it's a tip for each of us where we were thinking, yeah, I'd like to be better at that too. You got anything, John?
Yeah, and by the way, Tom's spot on correct. The way you can tell with radio, and it's a syndicated show, and you go to a time segment, the spots are not the right length, and you're going to hear a spot end, and you'll hear a little bit of another spot before they start talking or go into, and music's already playing. If I had to do anything better, my primary focus would be on how to increase discoverability of my show episodes in podcast directories. That's always the number one priority. And the content is it's always an ever evolving thing. But discoverability is something that constantly changes. So I've always got to be on there. That's my number one priority. Then search, then social media.
In the directory. So explain, what's a directory mean? What's that mean, John?
Well, for example, Apple Podcasts is a podcast directory. And about 52% of all new episodes are discovered in podcast directories by searching topics. So if you have a show and you take 3 topic words in your last show and enter it in there in a search, if you don't show up, that they're not finding you. They don't search by guest names; they search by topics. That's the vast majority of searches. And I'll say this: 52% of all new episodes are discovered there, and 100% of those people listen to podcasts. So when you focus on promoting your content to America in general, only about 43% of Americans actually listen to a podcast. So your numbers are much higher there. And as of right now, it's an equal playing field. There's no advertising, there's none of that stuff in Apple in particular, where you can really make some big gains by working on that. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, that was incredible. Thank you. So that's a good one. And we're going to keep on going. Tom, did you want to weigh in on that? Okay, you're good. All right, Mary, something we could be better at in 24, something you want to be better at. So I was thinking about this because my son is turned 18 today. And over the course of 18 years, I have sucked at a lot of things about being a dad. I tried to be the best dad I could be, but there's probably things, given the knowledge that I have today, that I would have done differently when he was 3, when he was 5, when he was 13. And so that got me thinking about business and starting the year. Well, what's something like I could be more consistent? I could make more YouTube videos. I make videos sometimes where I give publishing tips or give writing tips, and they're 4-minute videos, 5-minute, but then I get started doing something else and I haven't made one of those videos for a while. Well, they were simple. They seem to be well received. My authors enjoy them, people, but why am I not doing it? So Mary, you're up. What do you got for us?
Hi everyone, how are you doing? First of all, happy your son's birthday. So I'm new here. I was just wanted to ask for fill me in because what brought me here is about writing, and I was just saw your bio, and I'm trying to write something, stories, short stories, and I was wanted to I did like to come here and use your precious information to go on this way. This is the challenge that I got started for this year, and I think this is the thing that I always wanted to do, and I finally got started. Thank you.
Okay, Mary, we'll hang out. We appreciate you stopping by and hanging out, and we will definitely, you're in a room full of storytellers, and we will do our best to give you some golden nuggets that you're able to take home and help you continue to share your story. One of the things that I've been thinking about. Tom, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, Dom, it sounds to me like, if we're going to contextualize what Mary was just asking about in what we're talking about in the room, right, which is something we want to be better at this year or be better at in general, really this is about identifying a weak spot for ourselves, right? And it's sort of about looking at ourselves and saying, okay, what am I not great at? How can I improve that? And like some of the answer is going to be to delegate, right? It depends on the situation. But anyway, I think, for Mary, like what I'd love to hear is, and this is something that maybe a question that I wish I had asked a couple of years ago before I started writing my book, which was like, how do you, like, what's a good first step if you want to write a book, right? Like, what's the first step? Is it like, should I try to put together an outline? Should I, write up a one sheet of the concept, or do I just reach out to a publisher like yourself right off the bat and have them help me with that sort of iterative or development process from jump? What's the best first step?
Well, I think if you ask me, I think the best first step would be reading much uh, from on those episodes and all those favorite subjects and topics that you really like. And after a while, you showed up with writing automatically. This is what I've just grasped from writing. Because if you wanted to write something, you have um, something like a visual, you have to have an idea, an opinion, something that you strongly believe in, and you wanted to expand on it on your writing.
So Mary, thanks for that. I was asking Dom that question because he's a publisher, and you said you were here to look for advice on writing. So I was actually asking Dom what his thoughts are. Like, maybe give a couple of examples, whatever works for you, but what's a good first step for a prospective writer to take?
Well, number one, I wonder there might already be an answer. Is there something you're already passionate about? Like, let's say Tom was trying to humanize the world of business. He was passionate about production. It was obvious that Tom was either going to write about production or marathons and Ironmans and things like that. So in maybe some way he could tie them together. So that, is there something you are passionate about? So clearly passionate about. Is it fishing? Is it business? Is it, my mom had a battle with Alzheimer's, something I was clearly passionate about? What is it? Maybe like Julie Loken, her father and grandfather, was it your grandfather, Julie, that was part of World War II and liberating towns from the Nazis and things like that. Wow, what a story. But number one, is there something you're passionate about? Number two, get yourself an outline. Even if it says beginning, middle, end, get yourself an outline. Well, that I have 3 points on my outline. It says beginning, middle, end. Oh, that's something. But I'm such a big believer in starting to write something down. Number three, I would say start writing something on paper, your computer, however. Put notes in whatever, if you want to use Word, if you want to use Google, if you want to use Final Draft, whatever you're using, start putting words down on paper. Then later on, now, Tom, I could get into this all day long, but we will not. Then you can take these basic points that you have on paper and move them over to the outline. I wrote 10 stories here. I wrote 10 notes. I wrote 10 words down. This seems like a good beginning. This seems like a good middle. This seems like a good title. So you are, that outline is developing and building. So I'm all for building your story. So Mary, hope that helps. Okay, Tom, go on.
Cool. No, thanks, Dom. I appreciate that. I mean, it's one of those things. I was fortunate enough that from the get-go, I had a publisher helping me through the process. Right. I mean, the whole the genesis of my book was because of a couple of conversations I had with a publisher who then turned around and said to me, I want to publish your book. And I said, what book? And and she said, you got a book. I want to publish it. Let's get going. Right. So she really guided me through the whole process. And I was, incredibly fortunate to have that. And I know that's not something that every prospective author has. So appreciate that advice. I think that's super, super valuable.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And you're lucky to have a good one. And think about that. If you could get your...
Thank you very much, Dominic. It was really helpful. But as you just mentioned, I have to write about something that I'm really passionate about. My writings are mostly figuratively. And sometimes I just stuck in that point. How can I expand it? And they are more go into psychological issues, and sometimes I wanted to stop writing because I don't know how to keep it on.
Okay, well, we're moving on here, but I would say to you, just keep moving forward. Write. And then you'll have, all of a sudden, you'll have 200 pages, you'll have 300 pages, you'll have 100 pages, you'll have 20. And now you can look at that and say, how do these all relate to each other? How do they all apply? How do I get this into 40 points, 20 points, 50 points? And then now you start to have chapters and concepts and things like that. So fill your outline. All right, we are going to our friend Elise. What could we be better at in 2024? What could you be better at? Hey, Jason, what's up? Julie, Carrie, Howard, April, Phil, my friend Linus, Pete, hey, Dominic, the better Dominic without the K, he's here too. Elise, so what could we be better at in 2024? What do you want to be better at? And what could you use help on? Maybe there's some experts somewhere around here that could help you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for pinging me into the room. This is a really good question, and it's one that I haven't really had a chance to fully develop, but right off the top of my head, for 2024, one of the things that I'd really like to be better at, or at least more engaged in, is some of the tools and technology that comes with the development. Because a lot of what I've worked on so far has been fairly traditional, right? Like pen and paper, Word. I did use Scrivener for a few of my projects, which was great. But I know that there is a plethora of other tools and softwares that are available. And I haven't really, given myself the opportunity to dive into them. So for 2024, I think I'd like to get a little bit more familiar with some of the different tools and softwares that are available to help with the development and the structure and the organizing of some of those bigger projects. That's definitely something that I think could be incredibly helpful, because as of right now, it's been like fairly elementary tools, which are all great. I think, sometimes one of the things that I know definitely holds me back in this space is being a little bit more old school in some of the tools that I use. And I know that kind of, it slows the process down. And so for 2024, I'd really like to get more familiar with some of the newer tools that are available, just to help, with efficiency and organization of, any kind of writing project.
Definitely a good one. And I think that probably works for all of us in all aspects of production and content creation. Meaning, are you using your Canvas? Are you using... I have so many on my phone. Canva, CapCut. I was just using CapCut this morning. I had a video I was working on editing, and I started to go to Canva, but it was the wrong Elise, it was the wrong place, because I meant to go to CapCut, but I'm not doing it enough that I even went to the wrong app to start off with. So I hear what you're saying there. Tom, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, at least it sounds like you're looking for project management software, right? And I've dabbled around, with a few of them. There's definitely, I think it comes down to user preference, honestly, and playing around with them, figuring out what sort of UI creates the best experience for you and works best for your workflow. I mean, none of them are going to be a perfect fit, right? Because you've already kind of developed your systems that you'd like to use with existing tools, and then adapting those to a new tool, is going to require some change. Unfortunately, that's the reality, right? Is like you have to kind of continually change and adapt. But I think my big problem with those is that I start using them for projects, and then I often I'm not the best person to sort of oversee that, right? Like I'm not the best operations person. Like I'm really good at running a project, but I'm not the best like day-to-day operations person. That's for sure a weak spot for me. And something I don't really love or enjoy to do. And so that's why I don't do it. I'm trying to think, but I'll throw in the chat. There's a couple that I've used before that I would recommend, but the names are escaping me off the top of my head. So either I'll jump back in and mention them, or I'll throw them in the chat for you on Clubhouse. But I'll probably jump in and say them out loud so everybody who's not here on Clubhouse can actually hear what I recommend. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I feel like, and there's elements of that built into like CapCut and any of the editing software, or web-based editing software, or graphic stuff like Canva. But I'm wary of those programs a little bit, because I think the sort of danger in them is they're great for small, quick little jobs, but then the sort of danger of things like Canva is they make people think that they know more than they do. It's sort of like similar to everybody walking around with a camera in their pocket thinking that they're a photographer, because they use their camera on their phone all the time. And the truth is, just because you have something and know how to push a button on it, doesn't necessarily mean you're expert at that thing, right? And it's one of the things I constantly struggle against, and gap in understanding that I try to overcome when it comes to production, is people don't really understand why things are expensive when it comes to doing things professionally. When they're like, I could just get my phone out and film something and throw it up, and it would be mostly as good. And the answer is no, it wouldn't. But the lack of understanding is so huge that they actually think that it would be. So that's the kind of like the cautionary tale I like to throw at people with things like Canva, is like, and CapCut too, is just because it's convenient and easy to use doesn't mean you're good at it. Sorry. There's like no kind of nice way to say it. But yeah, anyway, I'll look up a couple of those in the background. I'll look up a couple of those software options, and I'll jump back in a second for you.
Okay, that's an interesting thing. Complete management of everything. So at least I'm 5 different places with, like, I'm in Word, I'm in Google Docs, I'm using Fade In for screenplays. I used Fade In for free for about a year. Before I actually decided, I need to purchase this. That's how long I looked at it. And every time I'd be typing and I'd have like 2 pages, and it would come on and say, do you want to buy this? I'd say, not right now. Do you want to buy this? Not right now. And so it took me a year to actually make that decision. Okay, so I'm skipping to Carrie. I'm coming back to you, Jason, but go on, Tom.
Give me 1 second, Tom. So I just wanted to jump back in real quick for Elise. I just looked up real quick. The 2 that I've used, there's a whole bunch of them, Teamwork and Airtable and Smartsheet and a whole bunch. But the 2 that I've used are, and Monday.com. The 2 that I've used are ClickUp and Asana. And personally, I liked the UI on ClickUp better than Asana. They both basically offered the same thing, but I found ClickUp to be a better UX. So, and UX stands for user experience, in case I'm being too jargony for folks. But yeah, that I felt like it was a better.
Hey, would you explain those again? What's going on there, just
sure.
a layman, because I don't have anything like this. So
yeah. So ClickUp and Asana are both basically project management software. So what they allow you to do is create projects on sort of like timelines. They integrate with a lot of other programs. So they integrate with Slack, Microsoft, HubSpot, Salesforce, Google Drive, etc., like all those kinds of programs. And basically, Zoom in some cases. And what you're able to do is use that software to sort of track the progress of projects. They're sort of like they're adjacent to like CRMs, customer resource management programs, but basically allow you to sort of track projects. So like from beginning to end, who's in charge of what. You can assign tasks. You can like sort of digitally kind of make sure that the football is in the right hands, so to speak, or the ball is in the right hands from like beginning to end. And then you can have oversight over the project as the manager or as the lead on it through that software. So it's robust. It can do a lot. It's great for organizing teams, especially in remote situations where you have a bunch of people in different places working on the same project. You can use them for those kinds of things. So they're really good systems. But I like when I talk about like user interface, ClickUp, like UI on ClickUp seems to be a little bit more intuitive for me. So it was a little bit easier for me to sort of like plug things in and start using the software. There wasn't as steep a learning curve. I felt like there was a little bit more of a learning curve with Asana. But that's just me. That may be unique to me. Other people would probably argue that they thought Asana was easier to use than ClickUp. And then just graphically and sort of experientially, I liked ClickUp better. I felt like it had a nicer look and feel to it than Asana did. Asana was a little bit more, it was like the difference between like, looking at an Excel spreadsheet and looking at like a PowerPoint presentation, like a well put together PowerPoint presentation, right? Like they both can deliver information, the same information, but one is going to do it in like a prettier way than the other. And like, I'm a very visual person. Pretty matters to me when it comes to design. So yeah, I tended to like ClickUp a little bit better. I thought the design and the whole, the user experience was a little bit better. But that's my preference. That's not going to be true for everybody. So yeah,
this is good because this is the idea here was what do we want to get better at in 2024 or what could we? And Tom and Elise are talking about something that I have no idea about so obviously it would be something I need to get better at. We're going to hit Carrie. We're going to go to Carrie and then we're going to go to Jason. We're going to Carrie because what Tom was speaking about, I know it was right down your path, Carrie, about that. Like people think just because they have a phone that they're a photographer, and I get it. Just same within the publishing world, people think, oh, I can put a book out on Amazon and it's going to be great. Yeah, maybe you can, but maybe you can't either. It's risky. That's what I'd tell people. It could be great or it could be really bad. So you do what you want to do. Okay, Carrie, weigh in, and then we're going to go to our friend Jason.
Okay, so I think it's really important you have to stay in your lane. So I remember when I first talked to my publisher, I asked him some questions about my writing and he said, I'm a publisher. I'm not an editor. And I was like, okay, that was interesting for me to hear that. So there's line editors, there's people who handle just capitalization and commas and quotations. For me, in my photography world, business, I create images. I create images that appear on covers. And the only way I could survive in business was to shoot and sell. So if I became a Photoshop expert, then my whole day is not shooting and selling and bringing in revenue. So I'm having the same problem right now where I want to do just a simple ad, but there's all sorts of photography that I do. So I spent all this time pulling all different images for the different categories of the things that I shoot, and that was a huge project. And then I was like completely burnt out. And then I'm like, all right, so now am I going to try to teach myself some of these and they're just so overwhelming. And then it's like the crying game. I'm like, I don't even know what end is up. And so I've got to simplify because there's a lot of wasted time writing captions and Instagram alone. I don't know. I mean, I write, I podcast, and I run a photography studio. That's already a lot. So the struggle's real. I'm definitely struggling trying to learn these things. I almost feel like I should do a content creation day at my studio and have people who know how to do this stuff help me because I'm not the type of person who's so technical that I can figure it out on my own. And I'm sure a lot of people listening probably feel the same way. So that's what I have to say.
You bring up a good point. Like, how much of this stuff should you be trying to do? When is enough enough? John, you want to weigh in on? I'm going back to John for the John. When is enough enough? Like, how many new things should I be learning? Like, is there a point where, hey,
Yeah,
I don't
I
have enough
think
time?
there's a point where you chase the next shiny thing, and it's like, oh, this will make you an instant success. And there's no look. If everybody was to be instant successes, just say podcasting, for example, wouldn't we all be 0.01 ranked shows by doing these things? The truth is, it takes a lot of work. What I do, and what I highly suggest, is figure out what is working for you. Use free tools like Google Analytics. Find out what is actually delivering traffic and spend your time there, because time is a commodity there's just not enough of. And I can't afford to waste time in an area that doesn't produce results. So, Google Analytics, it takes a little time to set up, but once it's set up, you can use tracking codes and you can figure out what's actually working for you and what's not. And therefore, you can get more laser focused on spending time in areas that produce results, and then you can slowly learn other areas. That would be what I tell people to do.
Good stuff. Appreciate you, man. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to jump back to what I totally agree with John and what he's saying. I mean, please steer clear of the quick fixes or 5 steps to like totally transform your business. It's all a load of bull. But because it takes hard work, over a long period of time, consistently to actually create success, right? So it definitely goes back to the idea that there's no such thing as an overnight success. It may seem like overnight to you, but in reality, you're just seeing the end result of years of work, right? But what I wanted to jump back to Carrie on and highlight really fast was I think something that she said kind of almost as a throwaway there at the end, but I think was really, really a smart way to try to help herself and fix the problem that she's encountering. And she's using a little bit of creative problem solving, but she's like, how do I use what I have and what I have access to, right, to try to create the result I want for myself? And she said at the end, maybe I have a creator studio day where I can bring in some people who have this knowledge base that I'm lacking. And either I can learn from them, or even better yet, Carrie, you might be able to establish a relationship with somebody where either through a partnership agreement or arrangement or through a financial arrangement, you can actually just have them take over some of those things for you. So you can delegate to them, and you having that sort of studio day might be a great way to meet those people. So like you can either expand your knowledge base, or like you said, you can stay in your lane where you're happy and you're comfortable and you know what you're doing, and maybe find somebody to delegate to and establish a relationship that you can use through that content creators day in your studio. So I think that was a great idea to use an asset you have and have access to help you solve an sort of seemingly unrelated problem. Like, what do I have that they also want or need, right? Like, how do I provide value to someone that can then result in me receiving value on the other end, right? So I love that problem solving approach to figuring out, like, how can I use what I have, what's at my disposal to help solve the problem for myself. I think it's a great idea. I think that's something you should run with and do. And then the other thing I wanted to say was just wanted to mention my favorite photography meme, which I'm sure, Carrie, you've also seen and get a chuckle out of, and it's that picture of the top of a camera with the mode dial on it, and it says everyone's an expert until, and that mode dial is set to M for manual, where you have to actually understand how to use the camera and control all the settings and the features of it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because that's my favorite.
Yeah, it's program. Everybody knows program until you have to actually know how to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And I know how to do it on my own. I just can't do simple things like CapCut, which is really kind of frustrating.
Gotcha. But yeah, I think that creator day is a great idea. I think you should run with that. And if you do it, we'd love to hear about how it goes, right? Like, definitely please come back and let us know if you do it.
I am going to do it. I'm going to do it with Brian, and I'm going to open it up because Brian has a video. So I have I have the photographer. He's a videographer. And if we put it out there that we're going to just have this day that's open on, say, a Saturday, let's see who we bring in. Maybe we even get a newsbreak article out of it, John, or some press. You don't know. I like it. Thanks.
Don't forget about barter. You got a great platform for bartering stuff. You can get stuff done in return for free advertising. So never underestimate your reach.
Exactly, John. And I think barter is something that people overlook all the time. All the time. Like, there is no reason why you can't. Barter arrangements are just as good as any other sort of arrangement or relationship in business. So, like, don't be afraid to barter. If you have something they need, create the opportunity to make that a mutually beneficial situation. If they have something that you need, that you can barter in return.
Good stuff all around. Thank you, Carrie. This is a good conversation. We appreciate you. Not the smartest guys in the room. We do this every Wednesday. If you've never followed the house, follow the house. If your little profile thumbnail picture is right beside somebody who you've never met or come in contact before, click on their profile and look them up. See what they're into. Maybe who knows? Maybe there's a relationship to be found there. Maybe you'll end up bartering yourselves. Who knows? Or doing business some other way. So, all right, Jason, not the smartest guys in the room. Anything 2024, something you're working on, something you want to be better at? Or any advice, any tips? What do you got, my friend?
No, there's plenty of advice. Whether it's actionable advice, that might be debatable. So I've literally just watched quite a few things. You guys got really specific on quite a few topics about visuals, photography, tools. And I was listening to at least what she was saying. I want to get better at this. Well, what is the outcome that you really want? Do you need to spend time learning something or pay someone or delegate or deliberate on someone else doing the work for you? Because there's more time spent and energy lost, not time lost, energy lost. Your energy represents your interest and your efforts. That's it. See, if you really, and then I would ask you as a Stoic, what are you truly focused on? Are you really looking at what everyone else is doing? Or first, what softwares do you use right now that work for you, right? And what can you add as an addition that's not going to take too much? Because any new app, any new feature, any new tech, there is a school of thought that you have to commit to study, practice, and be willing to screw up until you can make it so a part of you. And even in Stoicism, it talked about, Marcus Aurelius said, hey, I don't care about the generalities, but when I get to know what works for me, then you have my interest, because I don't care about the generalities. If I want to get lost in CapCut, okay. And using Carrie as an example, if it's so simple that it confuses you, you may be overthinking it. If you had to be a blank slate and look at something, ignore everything that you know, which is going to be an ego bust. It is going to kill your ego. You ignore it just long enough to say, okay, how does the simple user, step one, how do I record? Step two, what are the instruction videos? So it's really going to have to be, do you commit yourself to study every day? Do you practice something? When do you learn? A lot of people are too busy learning later. And if you stop wasting your damn time on what everyone else is learning in a little clip versus, like, you know what? I get up at 4:00 in the morning. I spent 3 hours just focusing just to get my podcast published. That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else until 7 a.m., which is 7:14 my time. But now I'm doing my work. I dedicated my time to get a product released. I conversed, I mastermind in Sound Off Tune In with John and many others. They gave me tips, including Brandon, actionable tips. So what do? Get up early in the morning, commit to the practice, make it happen, and stop deliberating about what skills you don't know. Make it simplified. And if it's too complicated, you can't, give it to somebody else, pay them, be done with it, because the more that you waste in energy on things that do not serve you, because You are confused. You're the problem. Remember, make your problem just an obstacle. Obstacles can be overcome. Problems people get stuck on. And that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Jason. You got yourself, Elise gave you a heart. I saw Mary giving a thumbs up. So, make your problem just an obstacle. Obstacle can be overcome. All right. That seems like a good reel or video. Elise, did you want to say something?
I did. That was such a great ad. And it's funny. One of the things that you pointed on is one of the things that I would also like to get better about in 2024, which is being able to discern, which of those components are worth diving in and learning, which one is worth delegating, so on and so forth. So it just definitely resonated for sure.
Just a quick question, Elise. When do you spend time learning so you can evaluate that decision? What part of your day do you set aside for daily learning?
Typically first thing, right? Before all of the other responsibilities of the day come in. Just as you said, if you can get up early and sort of crack into a few of those things before everything starts, that's prime time, right?
And here's the bonus. When do you review what you learned today?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably on the weekends, I suppose.
No. Change it. Spend 10 minutes at the end of your day, review what you learned to review and when it's fresh in the day so that you can write yourself a note to follow up. That's how you can make that decision towards the tech of whether it's a good time or a bad time. Because when you've had time to walk and think about it, you might deliberate on the latter. Then if it will float away in the week. By the time the weekend hits, you've already had over 10,000 decisions to make. Make a decision on what you learned and how it's applicable and review. That way you've had time to go through your day and say, you know what? This is worth my time. This is worth my energy. That's my last suggestion.
That's great advice. Thanks so much.
Hey, good stuff. We appreciate it. All right. And the smartest guys in the room. We do this every Wednesday. Join the house. We didn't ask people for a long time to join the house, so that is our bad. And we started a Instagram page too. I want to see some of you over there. Come on. This is a house. This is a house. Tom. All right. Tom's smiling at me. What's his I don't like it. Brandon, what are we trying to get better at in 24? Anything that you're working on that we should be working on too? Do tell, my friend. How you doing?
Hey, first off, Clubhouse makes it hard to find this room because I thought you guys left the app, and then
Come on, man. That's the worst news.
I know, and I'm connected to like half the people in this room, so I don't know why I wasn't showing up in my feed, but I found it through that globe icon.
Hey, I heard about this globe. Tell us about the globe because I want to talk about that. I just was thinking about that.
Yeah, it's silly. They make you hit the magnifying search icon on the bottom, and then you have to go to the globe icon in the top right corner, and then you can see a list of live rooms on the app. And you guys are on the top for me.
Hey, so you do 5 steps, but eventually you find this globe, and then it shows you live rooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate anybody with the effort, man. But okay, 24. What can we get better at? What are you doing that we should follow? What are you working on?
Facebook, Pinterest, and local biz dev are the goals of 2024.
What's biz dev?
Business development.
Look at that lingo. I didn't even know biz dev. Go on.
My career has been more like on the bigger size of brands, which is great because you learn a ton. But when you go freelancing and you apply some of the stuff you've learned to the mom and pops in the area, it's a different strategy. So it's a little tricky. I live in a blue collar town, and these people don't have email. They don't have an email. So how am I supposed to contact them? I had to go into their store. So I just got my business card yesterday, and I gotta go shake some hands around town. So that's my goal. I want to be known as the local designer in my town. I think it's doable, but it's very grassroots. So I'm kind of relearning some marketing strategies through this. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay, so give me a flash here. a couple years ago, I moved from business card to putting all my contact information on my phone, and I thought it was like, oh, I'm cool. And then now I'm thinking that might be. I went back networking somewhere the other day where everybody was passing out business cards, and I didn't have one to pass out, and then I felt lame. So, do I still need a traditional business card? Anybody? What's the room say?
Go ahead, Brandon, and then I'll jump in after you.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, because it depends on your target customer base. If these are people who would have business cards or like business cards, then the answer is yes. If you're targeting, I don't know, an 18 or younger person, they're not going to have a business card.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Brandon. I think, if you're looking to do business, with a wide variety of ages, I think there's a way to deal with that, right? And it's to have a business card, and then also have a sort of tech tie-in on that business card. So I'll just use mine as an example, and I'll pull one out of my drawer here so I can hold it up for the folks that are watching. But this is what my business card looks like on the front side. It's not going to be in focus because my camera, I'll hold it up so my camera will focus on it if it doesn't see my eyes. There we go. So that's the front of my business card, right? So it's just got my logo on it, the Talex, same thing that's on my hat that everybody recognizes me with. And then I'm just going to cover up some of my information so it's not all over the internet. But then there's a QR code on the back, and you'll be able to see that when it focuses real quick. I won't hold it up for too long, but that's a QR code on the back, right? So it's got all my information sort of written out on the back, right? Like my phone number, email address, website, et cetera, all of that. But then also there's a QR code, and underneath the QR code, it simply says, scan me. Right. And so that QR code doesn't take you to a website. And this is one of the things that I think sort of you highlighted there, Dom, when you talked about just talking with Brandon about the process he had to go through to find the room today, that it was like 5 steps, right, to find the room. Those are sort of barriers to entry. Those are hurdles that people have to get over in order to get to the room. And like sort of a golden rule is if you want people to take action, what you have to do is remove hurdles, like remove the steps in the process as much as you possibly can. So if you want, you make it as easy as possible for somebody to take action. So for me, what I've done is that QR code on the back of my business card, it doesn't take you to a website that then it makes you register in order to like download my contact information or something weird like that, right? It literally is my contact information. So when you scan that QR code, it pulls up a new contact card in your phone, and all you have to do is scroll down and hit create new contact, right? On an iPhone, whatever the similar is on an Android, right? But basically you just scroll down, hit create new contact, hit save, and I'm in your phone. Done. All done, right? Like no going to websites, no like, oh, I don't have service here. It doesn't matter. The information's in the QR code. So like that's how I kind of short-circuited and combined the two things. So if you want to have a physical thing that you can keep, you can put in a Rolodex or put in a business card file, I got that. I got you covered right here, right? But if you'd rather just scan it, save it in your phone and like toss it, or the other thing I do is I'll say to people, don't toss it, share it, right? Give it to somebody else. If you know somebody else, whoever needs, content production, whoever needs support for production, or just has questions or is curious about something, feel free to share my information with them. And I'll tell them to just share it, pass it on to somebody else. So that's how I've done it. Is I use both, right? Why not use both rather than one or the other? Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's something I could do better. Well, fits with what we're talking about in the room today. We got Eric's in the house, JC, Leslie. Hey, my friend Debbie Griffith said she's traveling today. Julie was here. She's busy working away on Creative Con, which you see our link up in Creative Con for Creative Con. If you haven't booked, if you haven't bought your ticket yet, we are going in just about a month, less than a month, Tom. We are going to get together with experts, doers, movers, shakers in Chicago. John Wiley's going to be there. Tom's going to be there. JC's going to be there in publishing, podcasting, production, public speaking. If you want to take your message to the next level, well, we're going to have workshops. We're going to have keynotes. We're going to have panels. We're going to have practical application. and networking. Did I say networking? I don't think. Tom, did I miss anything on that?
I think you got it, man. I mean, that's the goal, right? It's like we wanted to create this whole thing. Came about out of a desire to create a place for creative entrepreneurs to help them pursue their creative dreams, right? Whether that's starting a podcast, publishing a book, public speaking, production and creating content, whatever the case may be. If it's a creative pursuit, this is a great place for you to be. We've got a wide variety of experts in all kinds of different areas of content production and creative entrepreneurship, and we've got what we're going to do that I think is really the unique thing that sets Creative Con apart. And one of my favorite things about it is this idea that we landed on, that what we really need is, there are tons of conferences that have lots and lots and lots of inspiration on the main stage, right? Lots and lots of people really delivering inspiring messages on the main stage. But then they don't necessarily give you the tools you need to actually take that inspiration and translate it into action. And that's our goal with Creative Con. Is we're going to have inspiration on the main stage. We're going to have folks talking to you, guiding you through the process, and giving you the practical tips that you need to actually create action in the workshops after that. So in the morning, we're going to have inspiration, and then we're going to start the day with inspiration, and then we're going to go into the afternoon into workshops where we're going to give you the tools that you need to translate that inspiration into action, right? So there's going to be tons of opportunities to learn about what steps you can take to pursue your creative, to discover your dream, like exactly what the creative entrepreneurial passion is that you want to explore through the different inspiration that you get from the main stage, and then two, to then pursue that passion in a realistic way in the afternoon through the workshops and the panel discussions that we have. So that's what I think is really unique about it and interesting, and makes it a place that I'm really excited to be. Plus, there's going to be tons of networking opportunities and really a spirit of collaboration over competition. And I think that's incredibly important because especially in the creative world, it's a place where that old adage that a rising tide lifts all boats is particularly true. So we're really, really excited for it and can't wait to see everybody there.
Thank you, Tom. Well done. All right, we're going to my man, Eric, who is in the publishing business. He helps people tell their stories. We're talking about helping people share their stories in many ways. Eric, we were talking about what people could get better at in 24. Mary's doing some writing and she was looking for some tips. So is there anything you could get better at or any tips you could give that maybe would help us get better at our storytelling? What do you got, Eric?
Wow, put me on the spot. So I haven't seen you guys in a while. So want to back up though. So you guys talked about the barter system. I was at an event, took a little bit of pre-planning, but it was so fun because it was a swap shop of services. So in Carrie's case, she may come in with like a $400 value package, and it had, you get a headshot, whatever it is. And she could then swap that for somebody's web design or bundle it. And so it was kind of fun because when you sometimes come into this barter thing, it's like, is it equal for equal? What am I getting? What are the and it was just really fun because it was like, oh, I can do this, and this is what my production cost is, but it also advertises what my services are. And so it created this whole sort of swap shop, garage sale kind of thing where you were swapping your services for somebody else's services that you really wanted. And people started bundling like, well, I'll take, if you can get Carrie to give me the Photoshop and Dan to give me the video thing, I'll do this plus this for both of you guys. So it's a really fun way of networking. And then what I'm getting better at this year?
Yeah, what do you want to get better at? What are you going to try? You're probably great at everything.
Now, inventory management. And that when I say that, it's in the sense of I realized I went out and bought a software and then had two of them already on my desktop. And it was like, oh, I forgot this tool could do this thing. And I went out and spent, lifetime membership, whatever, and something else. And I said, you know what we need to do, guys, my team? We need to do like an inventory control sheet of what tools, techniques, software, whatever it is, apps that we already have. Go out and explore them for an afternoon and see if they've done any upgrades, now with AI being integrated into everything, if they've changed their product in a way we can use it deeper, better, more, before we start shopping for solutions. Because I'm a guy that's like, oh, we need that. Let me open Amazon. Boom, it's here. Oh, we need that. Let's just go buy it. So this year we're kind of doing a little less spontaneous buying and more strategy in what we're purchasing and how it's going to not solve a problem, but move the business in the direction we want it to go.
Eric, that's a good one. I wonder how many, when we're all trying to become more efficient, make $1 more this year, I wonder how many of us are paying for apps and things that are duplicating. If we just, like Jason said to Carrie, I wonder if she's already using something, if she looked a little further down the road at it, does it have those services that maybe you're buying somewhere else? And I said, that's interesting. Anybody guilty? Flash if you're guilty. You got apps that are doing the same thing and you're paying for them and you're wondering every month, why do I pay this? Why am I paying Dropbox? I all the time I wonder, why am I paying? My wife says, hey, you paid Dropbox this much money last month. Eric, do you pay Dropbox?
That was one that we got away with. We
Okay.
don't. Yeah, because it was like, wait, we're replicating Dropbox to iCloud to Google Drive. Like how, and then how much stuff is in each of those that we really do? Like, do we need 10 terabytes? Like, come on, people. And it's not about being penny pinching. It's really just being more strategic with like, what are we doing and how does this fit the bigger model? And is this going to grow with us, or is this just a Friday solution that we paid for so we could get to the weekend?
Yeah, that's fair. All right, good stuff, my man. Yeah. Now I'm mad at Dropbox, although I'm not getting angry in 2024. I'm doing good. Hey, speaking of goals, I am going to tell you a goal for 2024 that I have. I'm working on. Tell the world your goals. So we're 24 days in because it's my son's birthday, and I haven't told other than my family that sees me. I have a goal to do sit-ups every day of the year. 365 days. And I'm not saying it could be, maybe I started out with 20, it could be 30, it could be 50 sit-ups every day of the year. So 24 days in, I am still doing it. I may fail, right? But I hope that if I miss a day, I'll start the next. But 24 straight as of this day. And I think actually my back might hurt less. It wasn't even about that, but I think 24 days in, maybe my back hurts less because maybe I'm getting stronger in the core. I don't know. That's one of my goals. Tom, go on.
I was going to say that does make sense. Like, especially your lower back, probably, because what happens is, and I'm going to get a little nerdy about exercise and physiology, because this is something that I'm trying to be better at, is doing the strength training that I should do as an endurance athlete, that I have not historically been good about doing, and it's because your core strength and endurance directly impacts the stress you put on other parts of your body, and most particularly that falls on the posterior chain, which includes like your lower back, your glutes, and your hamstrings. And what you'll find is when you do like long distance endurance events, like an Ironman, like I do, is or even for a marathon, what you'll find is that you end up having some serious muscle fatigue problems and cramping in your posterior chain if your core isn't up to snuff, if you don't have really good core strength. And the other thing too is that they found in studies on exercise physiology, you look at like a lot of like weight training studies or strength training studies where they'll tell you like you don't want to do like days in a row of the same muscle group, right? So like you don't want to do, and professional bodybuilders will tell you this also, you don't do legs like 3 days in a row, or you don't do legs every day. You don't do arms every day, whatever the case may be, right? The beauty is that they found through studies in exercise physiology that actually your core, you can train every day, and it does have a positive effect. right? Because what happens if you train, say you train legs every day, you get to a point where it actually starts to have a detrimental effect after a certain number of days in a row because you're not giving the muscles enough time to repair. But because of because of physiology, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but they found that you can train your core every day. And it's something, training your core is actually something that can have a myriad of positive effects across a bunch of different things, but reducing lower back pain by improving posture and taking some of the strain off of that muscle group, those muscles in your posterior chain, is one of them. So yeah, it's a great way to do it. The other thing too is if you want to lose some inches in your waistline, while you should do core training because it's good to have a good strong core, sit-ups are not going to make your belly smaller. So just want to dispel that little myth. That's not a thing. Sit-ups don't make your belly smaller. Generally speaking, if you're going to lose body fat, you lose it kind of everywhere. You don't just lose it in your belly. It's not an isolated thing. So whenever you see something online that's like, get rid of belly fat now, like, that's a scam. Walk away.
Don't try to bring me down. No, I'm kidding you. All right, let's go. JC, it's our MC for Creative Con. But JC, I've been dropping in on his Monday rooms on. Is it on just on Facebook or is it everywhere, JC? Because I'm enjoying the motivation.
Yeah, just part of a new cadence, and just wanted to say hi to everybody and congratulate Tom. Tom, I was like 5 minutes away from getting in my car and coming to your Borders books or your Barnes and Nobles thing. I was just going to surprise you, but I didn't find my way there because my daughter had a thing. But anyway, congrats, man. Proud of you.
Hey,
Yeah,
JC, I got a question for you because
Yeah.
it was so good, and sorry if you probably had something.
No, go ahead.
The other day you gave four types of people basically when you're achieving goals for the year. You remember those? Like it was like the four. There's the people that are lying to themselves.
Yeah.
Can you give us that rundown real quick?
Yeah, it's just that particular conversation. So, I mean, just to answer your first question, I have my podcast is launching, ironically, the day after Creative Con. I have a brand new podcast coming out called Make Sense. So it's fun to start off fresh. Rise Up with Dragon is over. So anyway, my cadence for that is I'm going to have my podcast. It's going to be associated with YouTube. And I have a private community that people come in Tuesday through Friday, but Mondays I go live with what I call a Monday morning focus, and I just go raw and riff. So the particular one you were talking about was kind of like a pulse check, and this could be valuable for anybody here. Because, here we are, what is it? It's the 24th of January. And it's an interesting time to reflect, like mid-January till now, as to where you are in comparison to the goals that you might have like got totally fired up and psyched, as the magic dust glittered over you on New Year's Eve. So there's different versions of your reality. One of them, which is the smallest group of people, are the people that set goals and are 100% in momentum now and fully committed to them and reaping all the benefits of building motivation and self-belief and confidence, which are not required for success. Those are things you build along the way. So that's group one. I know a handful out of millions. Group two would have been people that did set goals, made an attempt at them, and then for whatever reason, reached into their handy dandy bag of bullshit and came up with an excuse to, do it another day. Like what was his name? Wimpy from Popeye says, "I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today." So that would be the second group. That's a pretty big group. And then there's the third group of people that, had every intention of doing something, but woke up on January 1st and recognized that it was just another day. And they didn't make a quality decision to go after something no matter what. Maybe they didn't set a goal that was sexy enough or valuable enough, and they didn't do a fucking thing. And then the fourth group are people that are just waking up now saying, I didn't do anything. Right. So the reason why it's important to take a pulse check, and the message was that all of those groups are okay. right? Doesn't matter. There's no good or bad. All that matters is that you have the ability to catch yourself drifting, right? And then from that place of catching yourself drifting is where you can begin to shift. So anybody, any day, doesn't have to be January 1st, can make a quality decision to go after something, completely embracing how much it's going to suck and how much hard work is going to be involved in it, and just go and never stop. So you can do that any day. That was the message.
All right, good stuff, my man. I appreciate you. Now for just to go on to 24. Anything you're working on 24 that you want to that something you're working on that you're like, hey, this might be a good thing for, like people have said consistency. Tom said a CRM came up. I mean, there's a lot of different things came up. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm working on those two projects, launching the new podcast with a new YouTube channel. Another cool thing that I'm doing that a lot of people don't know is I've actually moved into, on a big scale, the plant medicine industry. I'm actually running 4 like full scale retreats in the jungle this year, so that's exciting. But in the realm of consistency, it's ironic that I'm popping in here today. I'm in the middle right now, and you know, uh, is he still here? Yeah, Jason will love this. 72 will love this. So I'm a big Stoic fan as well. So I'm in the middle of a water fast right now, and just to understand what that is, I'm basically not eating any food, just drinking water with electrolytes, and then incorporating bone broth. So I'm on day 5 of that, no food. Feel amazing. But why
Tigis
would I?
would love you for that.
Why would I do that? That's the question, and I'm not advocating that anybody else should do it. But for me, there is a physical element of it, of cleansing. I don't want to lose weight, but I will build it back with muscle. But it's about discipline and control. So how does that tie into your question? It's called voluntary discomfort, right? A lot of people do it in different ways. I like to lean into forcing myself to go without things that we very often don't think about. So I'm going without food. And this is where the premise comes from of voluntary discomfort. What it does is it makes me appreciate food more. It makes me be more mindful of it. But on the discipline side, I am just super laser focused and disciplined right now. And just looking at the things that matter most. In my business, I am only focusing on high leverage activities. I've been able to clear my desk and plate and life of anything that just doesn't matter or support my goals and dreams. So it's just a different take on it. I didn't find a new website or an app or a widget or anything. I just refound myself and what it's like to be like completely all in and engaged. So when I come to a Creative Con, you guys are going to get that from me. And I'll just throw this out there. I don't know how many people listen to this, but anybody that's not registered for Creative Con, I don't even know what the ticket price is, but I will give 2 people, and you guys can pass this on. I will give 2 people $100 towards their tickets if they do it by Friday. There it is. Dragon just said that.
Can I add something to JC, Dom?
Go on, man. What do you got?
In a sum, he basically said in the beginning, enjoy the suck until you're good at it. Everything that you say is hard is going to stay hard until you work at it. And what he said about fasting, Epictetus and Seneca were big fans of suffering so that when tough times happen, they're not easily phased. Imagine if you say that you want to get better at 2024, okay, what are your prime directives and objectives for this year? And only surround yourself or contemplate what's actually going to get it done and move people into your sphere of influence who can help assist you in that. So I like what JC said, and it just reminds me of my military days. You just got to get good at it until it doesn't suck no more. That's it.
Well, this is a whole other topic we can talk about. I'm actually, my second book that I'm writing right now is ironically called The Suck. There it is. You guys can't take the name.
Yeah.
Um, but it really has a lot to do with what he's saying. But most people think that all they have to do is say they're going to do something, but it's who you are that determines how well what you do works. You're very often not the right person for the job when you get motivated and hopped up. So I'm just a big advocate of working on myself and building myself into someone that does follow through. And that's, 4 agreements, impeccable to your word and all that stuff. So, but I'm fucking crazy.
By
You
the
do-
way, Brandon, join the house of not the smartest guys, and then you'll see the room. You may
Yeah,
be
man.
wondering
I
why
did.
you didn't see
I
it.
did.
You're
I don't
not a
know why
part of the
Clubhouse has
house.
to be weird. I know. I did.
No, you're all good, man. We appreciate you. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get one tip from each of you after I give you a quick show and tell. One tip for 2024. So it could be plan ahead, short tip. So we were going to go advice. You get like 3 words max. Okay, but my quick show and tell. I started to show it the other day. One of my favorite things. So you guys might know I love basketball. Played in college, played in high school, all that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. My favorite basketball was 3-on-3 tournaments that you could play with your friends. And we would go to every tournament in Pittsburgh and play in these 3-on-3 tournaments. And it was absolutely amazing. You play on a small court. It is like a Royal Rumble because the rules changed. It's not so much about high flying as it is just being physical. But this is one of my proudest. I have a few of these around. 3-on-3 championships. Do what you love. I played basketball for like 20 some years. I love it. I watch it. And then there was a point in my life where I was like, I played enough basketball. I want to do new things. So then I started kayaking. I just jumped into skiing. So I keep trying new things. But that was the show and tell. All right. Now we are going to advice for 2024. You have to sum it up in 3 words, no more. So we're going to start with, now I know John can do it. So John, what do you got for us? He's like, I was getting ready
I'm
to
here.
give him
I would
Okay.
say
Go on.
focus on the tools and time you have now, and then expand gradually. Get better at what you have available at your disposal now.
Okay. Focus on the tools and time you have now. Good. Okay. We will go to Jason. What do you got for us? Quick tip.
Focus, study, practice.
Oh, there you go. You really broke it down. Thank you, brother. Mary, a quick tip for 2024.
Well, I think go for it.
Oh, that was a good one. Thank you. Well done. Brandon, what do you have?
Experiment and look for patterns.
Well done. Carrie.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so my tip would be collaborate, pull in the people that can help you, and barter.
Well done. Dragon, what do you got?
Let's say work on your why. Really focus with your why power, and just recognize that you are in control of your reality. Nobody else.
Good stuff. I'm going to keep it simple, and then we're going to go to Tom for a wrap up. Speak it, write it, live it. That's mine. Go on, Tom.
There you go. Love it, Tom. Love it, Tom. Way to bring it back to Creative Con there. I appreciate that. So mine was, I've got a bunch of different things that I was kind of having trouble picking which one I wanted to talk about real briefly in the wrap up. But what I want to talk about is this idea that consistency is key. And it's key for a lot of different ways. I'm going to tell you kind of 2 quick sort of metaphors or analogies for this that kind of show how consistency in different aspects of your life can really pay dividends over time. So the first is, as we talked about earlier, I'm a complete lunatic, and I like to do Ironman triathlons in my free time, right? Because I'm crazy. I fully admit that I'm out of my mind to believe that that's fun, but believe it or not, it is fun for me, and the hundreds of hours of training I put in are fun too. So you can imagine how upset I was initially when a few years ago, I had a bike accident. I broke my collarbone and ended up having to have surgery to fix it. And the reason I was upset was because, my first instinct was, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to train for my Ironman now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to meet my goals that I've set forth for myself because of this hurdle that I've encountered. And even though I wasn't allowed to run, I wasn't allowed to ride my bike for weeks and weeks, like 6 weeks, really. I wasn't really allowed to do much of anything after the surgery. I was in a sling. It was kind of a mess. Even though I wasn't allowed to do any of those things, I kept at it, and I went for walks, and I went for long walks, and I went for fast walks. And I tried to keep my fitness up as much as I could so that when I was able to really start training in earnest again, I'd be able to push things. And the end result of that was that consistency, that keeping after it and working even when I was faced with an obstacle like breaking my collarbone and not being able to use my left arm for over a month. I still hit my goal of finishing the Ironman that year in under 12 hours. So you can, if you consistently put in the effort, you can achieve the goals that you set out for yourself, even if you hit obstacles along the way. And the other way that consistency really can impact things is it impacts how other people see you and how you interact with the world. So here's the sort of metaphor for that. So when I was a kid, when I was about, 10, 11 years old, something like that, my parents started leaving me home alone, right? And before that, I have an older sister. I was always kind of like in her care to some extent. They would leave us home alone, but they would never leave me home alone by myself, really. So when I was about 10 years old or so, they started leaving me home alone. And at first it was just for like an hour, right? And my parents would leave the house, they'd go to the store or whatever, and they'd say, hey, here's the rules that we want you to follow, right? We're going to go to the store. We'll be back in an hour. So they'd come back from the store, and I hadn't burned the house down. I was still alive, right? There was no blood anywhere. And so they patted me on the head and they said, good job, buddy. And then next time they left for 2 hours, right? And then they started to leave for 3 hours. And then it was a whole afternoon. And then it was a whole day, right? And before too long, they were comfortable leaving me home alone by myself for a day, right? They knew that I could follow the rules and that I wouldn't cause irreparable harm to myself or our home, right? And really what that means is that over time, they set some expectations for me. And over time, I lived up to those expectations, and that built trust. I consistently lived up to those expectations, and it built trust. So I really believe the consistency is key, right? Because not only in your own life and with your own pursuits can it help you achieve goals you've set for yourself, even if you hit hurdles, but it also can improve the relationships you have in the world, including your business relationships, because if you consistently show up and deliver on expectations over and over and over again, it will build trust within your community, right? Your community will trust you, and they will give you opportunities because they trust you. So those are two ways that I think consistency can really dramatically impact your life. And that's why I think consistency is key. And so that's what I want to leave everybody with today. Thanks everybody so much for being here. We love you guys. Don't forget, JC was kind enough to hop up here and make an offer. So don't forget, he said you got till Friday to get a ticket to Creative Con. He's got 2 folks he'll do this for. You get a ticket to Creative Con, reach out to him. If you're one of the first 2, he'll send you $100. So thanks to JC for that. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate you. To get those Creative Con tickets, go to creativecon.com, right? That's CRE, the number 8, TIVECON.com, creativecon.com. Get your tickets today. It's at the Metropolis Performing Arts Center, just outside of Chicago, on February 17th and 18th. I'll be there. Dom will be there. Julie will be there. JC will be there. John J. Wiley will be there. All kinds of folks will be there that you should get to know and you can learn from. Debbie will be there. Can't wait to see you guys all there. And can't wait to help you pursue your creative entrepreneurial dreams, right? Whatever those may be. So yeah, we'll see you guys in February at CreativeCon. But before then, we'll see you here at Not the Smartest Guys in the Room next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm Tom for Dom. Thanks for being here with us today, guys. We love you, and we will see you next Wednesday. Until then, have a great, great, great rest of your week and great weekend. Bye, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.